There was a problem in front of you. Not a huge one, just something that needed figuring out. And your first move wasn't to think. It was to open something. You didn't even pause to try. You just reached. And the answer came back. You used it, moved on. And nothing told you something had been skipped. The answer worked. The task got done. So the brain learned, reach first. Think second. And it happened again and again, until reaching first stopped being a choice. It became the default. And the part of you that used to push through a problem, that tried a few angles, felt its way towards something, built something through the confusion, that part is getting less use. Not because you chose that, because there's always a faster option first. And the brain always takes it.
Here's what makes this worth looking at. Problem solving isn't just one skill. It's a collection of things that happen in a specific order. You notice something isn't working. You hold it in your mind. You try an angle. It doesn't work. You try another. Somewhere in that process, usually in the friction, usually in the part where you don't know yet, something develops. Not just the answer, you develop. Your ability to break things apart, to hold complexity without panicking, to find your way through something that has no clear path. That's what was being built every time you worked through a problem yourself. And here's what changed. That process now has a shortcut. Not occasionally, every time. And the shortcut works. It's faster, it's cleaner. It often produces better results. So you take it. Every time. And the original process, the one that was building something in you, gets bypassed. Not because you're lazy, because you're efficient. And that's exactly what makes it so easy to miss.
Before we begin, if you value quiet, thoughtful content like this, subscribing helps this channel grow and makes it possible to keep creating videos without noise or hype. Thank you for being here. Now, let's begin.
This is the part most people skip past, because the shortcut keeps working. And as long as it keeps working, there's no signal, no moment where something feels missing, no reason to stop. But there are people who still work through problems themselves before reaching for anything. Not always, not for everything, but often enough that the original process stays active. They're not avoiding the tools. They're not making things harder on purpose. They just kept something that most people quietly handed over. Not a technique, not productivity. Just what happens first. Problem arrives, they stay with it first. And in that space, before anything answers, something is still being built. The same thing that was always built there. It just needs to be the first move, not the backup.
Think about the last time something broke and you fixed it yourself. Not a technical problem, just something wasn't working, and you had to figure out why. You tried the obvious thing first. It didn't work. So you tried something else. That didn't work either. And somewhere in that back and forth, something clicked. Not because you found the right answer, because you stayed with the wrong ones long enough to understand the problem better. That's what was happening. Not just problem solving. Learning how that specific problem works. And the next time something similar appeared, you already had a map. Not from the answer, from the process of getting there.
Now think about the last time you let that process run. Actually stay with it, without opening anything first, without checking, without getting a starting point from somewhere else. For most people, that moment is getting harder to find. Not because the problem's changed, because the first move changed. And the map you build by working through something yourself, you don't get that from the shortcut. The shortcut gives you the destination, not the territory.
Here's where it starts to matter beyond the individual. The ability to work through a problem without a starting point, without a framework, without something telling you where to begin. That's not just a personal skill. It's what organizations rely on when things break in new ways. It's what teams need when the situation doesn't fit any template. It's what leaders draw on when there's no clear answer and someone has to decide anyway. And that capacity is built through repetition of a specific experience, being stuck, staying with it, and finding a way through. Not occasionally. Enough times that it becomes a kind of confidence. Not confidence that you'll always solve it. Confidence that you can stay in the problem without panicking. That's what's quietly eroding. Not intelligence. Something quieter than that. Tolerance for unsolved things. The ability to sit with a problem that isn't resolved yet and keep working without reaching for relief. And that's the thing that's harder to replace than any specific answer. Because when the problem is new, when nothing has seen it before, the only thing that helps is someone who can stay inside it.
If this feels familiar so far, not as information, but as something you've been dealing with, we keep a growing collection of prompts, tools, and simple frameworks designed to help you think more clearly, start more easily, and work better in this environment. We add to it over time. Nothing overwhelming, just practical resources you can return to when you need them. If you want access, you will find it in the description. Now, let's continue.
Here's what's still true. The capacity isn't gone. It's just not being called on as often as it used to be. And there's a difference between a capacity that disappeared and one that's waiting to be used. You still have problems that resist shortcuts. Situations where the answer isn't available somewhere, where you have to work through it because there's nothing else. Those moments still arrive. Maybe in conversations, maybe in decisions that are too personal for anything else to understand. Maybe in work that requires something only you know. In those moments, the original process is still there. You don't have to rebuild it. You just have to stop interrupting it. And the people who keep it sharp aren't doing something unusual. They're just not skipping those moments when they arrive. When the problem resists, they stay. Not because they enjoy difficulty, because they've learned what happens in the space between the problem and the answer. That's where the territory gets built. And you can't get the territory from someone else's directions.
When was the last time you stayed with a problem before opening something?
The shortcut isn't the problem. The problem is when the shortcut becomes the only move you know. When the reach happens before the thought. When the answer arrives before the question has had a chance to form. When you stop being the one who figures things out and become the one who retrieves what others figured out. That shift is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. And it doesn't feel like a loss because the results keep coming. But the territory stops being built. And there will be a moment, there always is, when the shortcut isn't there. When the problem is new enough that nothing has seen it yet. When you're the first one in the room with it. And in that moment, what matters isn't access. It's whether you can still stay inside it. That capacity is still there,
but so is everything that's been training you away from it. And there's something underneath this worth going further into. Because it's not just about how you solve problems. It's about how you see them. That's where this goes next.
If you made it this far, it means this topic matters to you. In the next video, we continue building on this with clearer understanding, practical perspective, and ideas you can actually use. Following the channel really helps us keep developing content like this and adding more resources over time. The next video continues from here. You can watch it now.